I'm Kathy Frank, and I wanted to introduce you to my app called Vocabulab and all the things that I've been through trying to create it. Once upon a time, there was a senior insurance executive who was searching for an easy way to learn new vocabulary words. He wanted this to happen on the go, wherever he had some extra time during his busy days. So David P. Windsor is a 62-year-old vice president with an important degree, impressive degree, and even though he's the first to say insurance can be boring, he loves to do improv comedy routines as a hobby to spice things up. Because of that, David is always looking for ways to keep up with an ever-changing business world, as well as for the latest jargon for his improv routines. He was recently promoted to head up a new division, and he wants to fully understand any new terminology as he'll be representing a core part of the business. He wants to be able to study and learn new vocabulary in his spare time or on the go, such as waiting for an Uber driver or being at the airport or on the train. So David, being an actuary, wants to have an easy way to look up words and add any industry-specific words and quiz himself to show his mastery of new vocabulary words. He needs to be conversant and comfortable since he will be the face of the new department. And being an actuary, he works with a lot of medical terminology, so he doesn't want to have to carry a medical dictionary around with him. Since he's a little bit older, he does not use many apps, so he wants one that will be easy to pick up and use, and for it to be really intuitive. He doesn't want to have an app that's cluttered with features that he's not going to use, that are confusing, and that will force him to read a user's manual. So he wants it to be pretty straightforward. He also wants to hear pronunciations and see words in context. The challenges we had with this was that since David anticipates new terminology, we may have to add important words and in a way that we can upload lists of words, especially medical terminology, since he's working in that area of the business. He should be able to identify and focus on words that could be problematic to learn, and have an easy sign-in process to quickly access the app since he wants to be able to use it here and there and everywhere. We also wanted to have a few different methods for studying new vocabulary to keep it interesting, but we didn't want to have it cluttered. As David says, if I'm reading and come across a word and I don't know what it is, I have to look it up. There's always something you need to know. Our prototypes started off with our sign-in prototype, which included a way for our users to sign in with Facebook, Google, or by entering the username and password. This is fairly standard for a lot of apps, and it's an easy way to sign in. Once the user signed in, they were able to select the learning language that they wanted. Is it going to be English or German or Spanish, some other language? They could select that here. And we also gave them a little bit of direction as to where to go next, since they may not be familiar with these icons at the bottom of the screen yet. So the next thing was to go to our word lists, where they could actually search for a particular word. They could view all words, they could view words added, and they could view words that need review. In order to add new words, they'd click on this button and be taken to this screen where we would say that the default language was English, since they had selected that perhaps as their learning language, where they would type in the new word and the definition and some kind of example, and then they could keep adding more, and then click done when they were finished. After getting words into their word list, the next thing to do would be to go to activities, where they could choose a bunch of different activities, first being flashcards. On flashcards, they would see the word and pronunciation. They click the little sound button, learn if it was a noun or a verb or whatever, have an example of the word. They could look it up using a Google and see if they needed further information on it. And if they were having problems with the word, then they would select Needs Review. And that would actually add the word into the Needs Review column for their word list. They click over, they would actually see the definition of the word, and then they could go on to the next card. The other learning activity they could do would be word matches, where they would have words and definitions, and they would need to match up the correct word to the correct definition. And then best definitions, where we would show a word and they would have to select the best possible definition for that word. Now, in word matches and best definitions, if they didn't get the answer correct, then those words would automatically be added into the Needs Review word list. Then we get to quiz setup, and this is where the user can go in and say, all right, for all my words, for the all words, these are the words that I would like to be included on the quiz. Again, they could also search for a word. They could select all or clear the selected words. The same thing would also hold true for words that were added. Did they want those words to be included on the quiz or not? This would give them the ability to select that. And then finally, for Needs Review, they probably would want to select all of the words that need review to make them included on their quiz. For the quiz itself, the user could decide if they wanted to have a combination of flashcards, word matches, or best definitions. So, for example, here they get the best definition. So they've got the word, and they would choose the best definition and then click next and move on. If that word didn't pass, then it would be added into the Needs Review column. Quiz results would show either you got X correct out of Y, keep studying, and they could view their progress, or they could retake the quiz, or if they got everything right, they could just go ahead and view their progress. To do that, they go to the profile screen, where we've got some just basic information on the user that they could edit, or here's where they could view their progress. And the progress will show them the quiz history, month, date, and time, number of words passed, and the number of words that need work. They could drill down, and then it would show them the actual words that passed and the actual words that need review, and then the total number of words. Finally, we have settings. In addition to the learning language, we also have a setting where they could select the sound and how loud they wanted it to be. The sort order, if they wanted to see things alphabetically or shuffled. And uploading words, which is what we identified as something that they had to be able to do, upload a list of words. There are other things on here as well, but I didn't include them here. For our usability test plan, we wanted to make sure that the user could easily sign in, add a new word, indicate needs review for a flashcard, indicate specific words to be used in a quiz, and then finally to be able to view your progress. For our early prototypes, the things that we found was that users did not see the word done in the corner and wanted it moved, possibly below the Add More button. And they wanted a message saying how many were added, how many words were added. They also wanted to know where they could find their progress, and we really had not shown them how to do that on the home screen. In the flashcards, they didn't want the word over, they wanted it changed to say definition. So when they clicked on it, they knew they would be going to the definition of the word. Finally, with word matches, users wanted an extra word or definition to make this a little bit harder. So if you just got the first two right, the third would be obvious. By adding an extra word or definition, that would make it trickier. The improvements that we want to make are to add additional verbiage to the home screen to tell the users to use the profile icon to find their progress. We want to remove the word done from the upper right-hand corner and place a finished button beneath the Add More button on the Add New Words screen. We also want to add messaging to let the users know how many words they've added. On the flashcard, we're going to change the word over to definition, and on the reverse side, change it to word. And then we're going to add an extra word or definition to the word matches to make it harder to solve. Our next steps: make necessary changes to the prototypes based on the first round of usability testing, then gather reviewers and conduct a second round of usability testing. Incorporate any fixes to prototypes. If there are any major usability issues or catastrophes that are found during the second round of testing. Conduct further usability testing, which probably will be necessary, and then get it to creating wireframes. The learnings I had from this activity, we were asked to list pros and cons, and I really didn't have any cons. I found the whole activity to be very positive. I found that researching was huge, to be able to look at similar products to help you learn what to do and what not to do. You can find inconsistencies on labels and verbiage and too many menu levels, or it's not intuitive. And you can get ideas for things that you can improve on and add into your app. User personas really help to clarify your goals. In my instance, I didn't have an app that was really aimed for younger people, but older people who didn't want to have to worry about all the fancy glitzy things that you see in a lot of apps these days. Information architecture gets you to think through the processes. So just logging in was a big deal, thinking that through. What happens if you forget your password or you don't enter something? Then where do you end up? Prototyping sets your vision on paper. I probably like this the best, and maybe most people do, because you get to draw, even though my drawing isn't very good. But I started doing that, and even that helped me think through the process. Sometimes I'd come to a screen and think, oh, well, how am I going to get here? Or where do I go from here? So that was really helpful as well. Usability testing is crucial to ensure that the end result is successful. I can take it for granted that people are going to understand what I mean when I write it down or I draw it, but once the user is actually faced with it, it may not be quite right.